So for anybody with a KE70 or an AE86 and you're asking questions about these ultra racing fender braces, here's my honest opinion. Don't buy them. Just don't. Okay, so we are off to the Home Depots because we're looking for a drill bit that is going to fit this nutsert. So, metric nutsert, 1/2 inch is just barely too small. 5/8 is definitely way too big. So, worst case, we'll use the 1/2 inch and then we'll just kind of wallow it out a little bit and force the nutserts through before we clamp them. That will be a really tight fit, and so I would be okay with that. But realistically, we want a metric size. I can't tell you off the top of my head right now, but we're gonna go see if we can find a metric size drill bit, or at least a drill bit that is a lot closer to the size that they need to grip. All right, today we're learning about fender braces. What are they? What do they do? How do they work? And how do you install them? All right, so let's start with what is a fender brace? Well, this is a fender brace. And it bolts to the doors, door hinge bolts, and then it bolts here. Something like that. Now you might be asking, why? Well, it adds extra strength to the shock tower. So a fender brace, it uses the 4 bolts for the door hinge and then 2 additional bolts up here to add extra strength to the shock tower. It looks something like this, and it sits underneath the fender, hence fender brace. But its actual function is to help with strengthening up the shock tower. Some people have the misconception that the fender brace is to add strength this way for hard cornering. Like when you go into a corner, you put a lot of side load on it. The car's actually pretty good for that. But what it'll do is this will actually flex upwards, which means that your suspension is delayed or spongy. So what this bar does is it triangulates all this, adds some strength here, and stops it from going upwards, giving you a better, more rigid steering feel. Now, if we look closely here, you can see there's these 2 holes and a kind of a weird angle. It's because this car used to have fender braces on it. Now, there's a lot of different companies and a lot of different brands, and they all kind of bolt up at a different spot. So these holes aren't going to work. We're gonna have to drill new holes later on. All right, first step is we're gonna take the 4 bolts off for the door. Now, as long as you have the door with a door handle and a striker and everything installed and the door is closed, as long as you put just a tiny bit of pressure on here, you don't even really have to. The door will kind of just stay put. So you'll see. Okay, now that we got those 4 bolts out, we can put these up against the hinges and then put the bolts right back in. Okay, so here's the first thing I'm seeing with these ultra racings. They don't fit very well. Now, I mean, this I'm not super concerned about because we can put a bolt or a rib nut anywhere. As you can see, it is the 3-point. This is their part number, and it is for a Toyota AE86 or a KE70 because they're basically the same car. But I can't even get that flush down here because the bar is hitting the chassis. And what that is that's this seam weld right here that goes along the car where the car was mated together. So I'm gonna have to either cut or hammer that in to get it to fit. And then it looks like, well, then we should hopefully be okay from there. But that's kind of a bummer. Now, I believe this car had UAO fender braces. That's what these two holes were drilled for. Now, on UAOs, they're nice because you can just reach in here. It's kind of a pain, but with a wrench and a nut, you can put a nut there and a bolt in, and you can just bolt it in. This is a little bit further up. You could, I guess, but it's gonna be a lot harder. So I'm just gonna do rib nuts, which is fine. But this is not modified, as you can see. Nothing's been hammered or had to be adjusted, and it's had fender braces on it before. So not a really good look for these Ultra Racings. We're still gonna use them because they'll still work. Although, I mean, I know they're cheap products now because they fit poorly, so eh. I hate that I had to do that. But now it looks to be sitting mostly flush. I found another problem. I mean, that's how far off the bolt hole is, and it's causing me issues to where I can't get that bolt to line up. I'm gonna have to drill this out a little bit. It's annoying. So what I did is I drilled these out to larger holes because the alignment of these are so far off you can't bolt it onto the car, which is annoying and just not a good look for ultra racing in my opinion. It's not trying to be a hate video, but this product, the fitment's trash. Now, this is a good time to remind you that you did just loosen the door hinge bolts, so the door's gonna sag, and it is gonna be a pain. So you gotta lift the door kind of a little bit up higher than you need it while you tighten the bolts back down, because it's gonna droop a little bit, and you're gonna have to mess with it a little bit to get it to hit the striker clean so that your door opens and then also fits the body and looks good. You might want a friend for that, to help lift the door to either tighten the bolts while you have the door sitting where you want, or vice versa. Now for here, we're going to be going ahead and installing these M8 nutserts, which we're going to be pairing with these bolts from Toyota Prius, which are this same thing. And basically that is what's going to hold these into the metal. So we're going to have to take this bar off, but before we do that, we want to locate our holes. The best way I found to do that is to get a drill bit that just barely fits inside these holes. And only just leave a little dimple on the car. So now we know that those are lined up with the bracket and will work correctly, and then we can figure out what size drill bit that we need. And now the bar comes back off. Okay, the closest drill bit I could find was a 27/64, and it looks like it's gonna probably be pretty close. This hole right here on the chassis fits it perfect. This kind of slides in a little easy, but with a little bit of wallowing, I think we'll make it work. That didn't work. I found more fitment issues, surprise, surprise. Honestly, this one actually is kind of my bad for not noticing sooner what I was getting into, but check this out. So I got the first nutsert, and yeah, I kind of mangled this hole because I'm digging into metal here, because there's metal right, like, you can't fit a nut behind there. Even if you could reach one back there, it's never gonna line up, because this was never an option to use the second bolt hole. So cool, we've got those four, and then that top one, I'm gonna continue to install these on this car. But the real shame is I bought 2 sets of these because the other one was for the pink race car. And there's absolutely no way I'm putting this on the pink race car. So for anybody with a KE70 or an AE86 and you're asking questions about these ultra racing fender braces, here's my honest opinion. Don't buy them. Just don't. Build your own, or have a fabricator build you some. Unless you could track down a UAO styles, but there's a lot of other replicas and stuff out there. T3 is an option. Don't buy ultra racing. Buy something else. So this was supposed to be a fun and educational video, and it's really turning into just hating on ultra racing. These things are garbage. I would not recommend this for any AE86 owner, any KE70 owner, and there's other options. Do not buy these. They're trash. They're garbage. I'm gonna probably put them on this car because it's cheap, dilapidated stuff, but the really crappy part is I have another set for the pink car, and they're still wrapped up in the plastic and look all pretty and stuff, and they're gonna go away. They're gonna go in the scrap pile, and they're gonna be scrapped in for scrap metal. That's what I think about this part. Holy crap, Ultra Racing, you suck. This is a horrible, horrible product. You should stop selling them. Stop it. And any enthusiast out there that is looking for fender braces, just build your own. Or there's other reputable companies out there. Buy one of their products. Do not buy anything from Ultra Racing. This is just fucking garbage. I'm mad now. I'm angry. All right, so I got these rib nuts and this rib nut tool. It's a Doyle tool from Harbor Freight. Forget what I paid for it, but so far I kind of like it. We'll see how it works. It's basically how these work is you get the right attachment on there, and you just kind of thread it in while you suck it down here to the rib nut. And you'll notice that the handles are kind of, as you tighten it down, the handles come apart. Now we're just gonna squeeze, and it's gonna pull those threads up, which will work like a rivet. It'll squish, and it'll squish both sides of the metal here on the car, and then leave threads behind that you can put a bolt into. Now, when you do that, you want to make sure that you're still pushing forward towards the car, because you don't want to like accidentally rip it out or have it misaligned. Okay, so what I did there is I loosened it a little bit so the handles are a little bit closer together, just so I can get a little bit more leverage on them. Now I just tighten it up those couple threads to suck it back in. All right, now you just unscrew it. And now you have somewhere to place your bolt, which we're using these Prius bolts. And that's what's going to hold on our fender brace. And that is how you install a fender brace. A really cheap and crappy fender brace. So I did want to show you guys that I got it installed on both sides. This side I only drilled the one hole because we know now that that one doesn't make sense. I had to do the same thing. I had to bend the body tab in there, and then I had to wallow out all 4 of those holes, or widen them out to make that fit. Same as on this side, so both sides were equally bad. So yeah, both sides were equally bad. I don't know, I'm not really stoked on it. I'm kind of disappointed, and I don't know, maybe I'll calm down and change my mind, but definitely not a really good product. I know I said I'm not gonna put those on the pink car, but I have them. Knowing what I know now, I might run them from now. I might just drill the one hole. I don't know. They're not gonna take them back, so we'll see. I don't know. Sorry guys, this was supposed to be a fun educational video, and it kind of turned into just a crash out. But anyways, till next time, happy wrenching.